Hello, people of my page. I have another video today for you addressing a couple issues. First and foremost, I did not watch the Biden inauguration. I didn't watch the Trump inauguration either, but I suffered from a bit of Trump derangement syndrome back then. I didn't watch the Biden one because I can't stand the hypocrisy of our current media administration and literally watching them fawn and goo all over, the establishment is frankly quite sickening. But I want to discuss with you today one of the executive orders that he rescinded that President Trump put in place, because it's really important, especially if you have young children. Okay, I need you to understand that because it's about to come into your classrooms, into your educational institutions. And I feel like if you have little kids, children, very impressionable young children in any of these institutions, you need to be aware of what rescinding that order means. So I'm not sure if any of you are on Twitter, but if you are, I highly recommend following Christopher F. Rufo. He basically brought this to Trump's attention, which is why he wrote an executive order prohibiting critical race theory in any and all federal institutions. So I need you to understand that that's what it was supposed to do. Here's a letter that he put together in response to Biden's rescinding of this executive order. Today, President Biden rescinded the Trump executive order banning critical race theory training programs from the federal government. Critical race theory is a grave threat to the American way of life. It divides Americans by race and traffics in the pernicious concepts of race essentialism, racial stereotyping, and race-based segregation, all under a false pursuit of social justice. Critical race theory training programs have become commonplace in academia, government, and corporate life, where they have sought to advance the ideology through cult-like indoctrination, intimidation, and harassment. It's time to fight back. Last year, I declared a one-man war against critical race theory, which led to the presidential order banning these trainings from the federal government. Today, I am announcing a new coalition of law firms and legal foundations with the explicit goal of fighting critical race theory in the courts. This coalition, called Stop Critical Race Theory, has already filed 3 lawsuits against public institutions conducting critical race theory programs, and in the coming months will file additional lawsuits in the state and federal courts. Our ambition is to take one of these cases to the Supreme Court and establish that critical race theory-based programs, which perpetuate racial stereotypes, compel discriminatory speech, and create hostile working environments, violate the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the United States Constitution. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention before I discuss what today's video is about. So again, I did not watch the inauguration. I did, however, watch Amanda Gorman's speech on YouTube. I just went ahead and Googled and searched her name and listened to that amazing poem that she read and that she wrote. I would liken that to the modern day equivalent of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, okay? It was beautiful, not only in what it said, but in its execution. But I want to draw attention to the last few words of her poem, when she says, the new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. That is why I'm making these videos. We may not always agree. You may disagree with all the things I say. You may agree with only parts of it, and that's okay. But I am making these videos because I see what's going on, and I have to be brave enough to be what I'm putting out there. So if I'm wrong, I'm going to correct myself. If anything that I say or bring up in this video, you want to have a discussion about, I encourage you to do so. I would also encourage you to make your voice heard. E pluribus unum, out of many, one, okay? We are stronger as a nation united than we are a nation divided, okay? And it doesn't matter who sits on the throne of the presidential chair. We are responsible for our own behavior. We have to stop blaming other people for the division in this country. It starts with you. So, over the past year, I have seen a lot of memes stating that America has never been great. How do we change that? Because maybe you don't ever think that America has ever been great, but I believe that America can be great. So what do we do to change that? I've seen a whole lot of talk about America is a racist country, and I would have to disagree with that. I don't believe America is a racist country. Do we have racists in America? Yes, we do. We do. But where does that come from? Oprah Winfrey, back in the 90s, did a show on children in the KKK, or raised in the KKK. And basically the show was about these children, these young college kids who moved away. So they went away to college. Well, guess what happened when they did that? They got exposed to a lot of different cultures. They started talking to people and learning about people. And they started to realize that all the things that their parents told them growing up were lies, which in turn caused them to have to walk away from their families because they could no longer subscribe to the hateful, evil ideology that their parents raised them in. Okay, so if you said that racism starts at home, you would be correct. It is a learned behavior. Children do not come into this world hating. They only know love. And it's a learned behavior. It's taught to our children through the words that we use, the behavior that they see their parents exhibit. Because remember, we are our children's first teachers. So I want you to ask yourself some questions. Are you mindful not to talk poorly about other ethnic groups in front of your kids? Do you call your friends out if they make a racist joke? Or do you laugh it off because you feel uncomfortable? I want you to remember that little elephants have really big ears and they will mimic what they see you do. So ending real racism starts with us, okay? So what can we do to remove it from our communities? Well, I'll be honest with you, taking to the streets isn't going to affect any real change. The American Civil Rights Movement took care of that and had things enacted in laws. And if we try to do a top-down approach in regards to this, I don't know about you, but I want less government involvement in my life, not more. What we need to do if we want to affect change, especially in this arena, is first we start at home with our actions and how we raise our children. And then we spread it out into our communities, and then the communities branch out and it goes out from there, but it all starts with us. So things that we can do is we can get involved in our local government. Okay, so this means going to city council meetings, knowing what's being proposed on the legislature, going to school board meetings. The other thing that we can do, and Americans, I cannot stress this enough, because I will tell you something. Before the lockdown started last year, I didn't care about politics. I didn't care. But when I got locked in my house, and started questioning as to why, I started paying more attention and doing my research and doing my due diligence. and not liking the things that I was seeing, and then started thinking, how can I do something? So this YouTube channel has been a long time in the thinking, because the only real thing that I have right now is my voice, which is why I inspire all of you to use your voices as well. So another thing that we can do is to stop voting party. I don't consider myself a Democrat or a Republican. Independent, libertarian might be the better word to describe I'm not a side picker, and I'm not a sit on the fencer, but I do stand up for principles of doing what's right and having integrity. I don't care for hypocrisy, and I see a lot of that going on in the news media right now, and it angers me to no end because I don't understand why the rest of the world can't see it. But again, this is just me. But we can stop voting party, okay, and start doing our due diligence, because it's our responsibility. Do our due diligence as Americans to research the officials that are coming up for election, okay? Before you cast your vote, don't just vote D or R. Research the policies they support. See what policies they've, either pushed through or supported. Do those policies align with your core values? You might find that the person that you want to vote for doesn't support the things that you want. You might find the other candidate does that. So please stop voting party. The only way we're going to affect real change is if we start electing officials that have our best interests, not theirs, at heart. Get to know your local police officers. So this is something that we can do in our small local communities, okay? I heard the police chief of Detroit make a really good recommendation. Police officers should live in the neighborhoods they're policing. And I want you to think about that for a moment. If you live in the community that you're policing, you know your neighbors, you know the community, you're invested in the community. So I think that's an excellent start. Because think about it, and this is just a hypothetical situation. Let's say one of your community members has a breakdown and they're out in the street and they're maybe brandishing a weapon. Don't you think that if the officer knows that individual and that individual knows the officer, it's going to be a lot easier for that officer to talk that person off the ledge, and the chances of escalation decrease dramatically. It's much easier to talk somebody off the ledge if you know them, okay? Another idea that you can demand from your city council, like I said, that the officers work in your community, they should live there. Because if they're patrolling an area that they're invested in, the chances of unneeded shootings or violence decrease. And I'm sure there are statistics that prove that. I didn't bother looking those up. These are just my opinions, my common sense approaches, like it makes sense. Because it's a lot easier to hurt someone's feelings or even hurt them physically if you don't know them. But when we know people, whether it's our friends, our husbands, we're less likely to say something to them to hurt their feelings because we know them and we love them, we care for them. So I'm just using common sense approaches. Again, like I said, there could be statistics that back this up, but it just makes sense. And apparently even our police chief believes it to be so. So in conclusion, we need to guard our hearts and our minds, okay, to the oncoming cultural war, because that's what it is. It's an ideological war. I don't subscribe to groupthink. I'm sorry. I don't politically affiliate myself with a group of people. I am an individual. We are all individuals. And I'm sorry, but I'm a big believer in individual rights and freedoms, and individual rights and freedoms should be defended over the rights of groups. Because guess what? Individuals make up groups. And if you're defending the right of all individuals, you're included, those groups are included. But I do not subscribe to group think or political ideology, or any ideology for that matter. Critical race theory actually teaches the opposite of what Amanda Gorman and Martin Luther King stood for. It's getting ready to invade our schools, and serious. I'm going to be doing a video series on critical race theory and some of the whistleblower documents that Christopher Rufo has had people send into him about this training. I'm pretty sure that most of you are going to find it absolutely appalling, and it's exactly the opposite of bringing people together or unifying them. It's also invading colleges. So this is what we're seeing as well. The most important thing that I want you to take away from this video, though, is that ending real racism starts with us. It does. Individuals at home with our children. Okay. Like I said, no one is born into this world hating. Hate is taught. Racism is taught. Being prejudiced, because that's where racism stems from. It's taught. It's learned behavior, and they learn it by what they see us do. So we have to strive to we have to work hard to raise the next generation to treat everyone they meet with kindness, respect, and curiosity. Okay? Ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask questions. Anybody worth their salt is not going to mind answering them. But until next time, stay true, my friends, and remember, hypocrisy is everywhere. Speak truth to lies. Thank you and have a great day.